Hi everyone, it's Lauren and welcome to my list of worst things that I read in 2016. If you would like to watch something a little bit more positive, you can watch my favourite reads of 2016 up here and also linked below. These books aren't necessarily books that are bad, these are books that probably disappointed me because they weren't what I expected them to be. But do you know what? I feel like if things are bad, it needs to be said. Like there's no point in me just standing here going, oh my god, all the books are amazing. Like, who wants to listen to that? So the first things that I have, because most of these books I've got rid of, by the way, I don't have them to show you. There's a couple that I still have, so I'll start with those, and they are the very short introduction books. And I still have them because I have a third one in this series, which is a very short introduction to modern China, which I still haven't read. But these two, Myth and African History, were just awful, but they were mainly awful because they weren't what I expected. An introduction to myth, I mean, what I expected from this book was an examination of different myths from different parts of the world, kind of the origins of different myths, maybe like, you know, an introduction to myths. But what this actually is a look at different mythical sort of theories of myths, so academic theories of myths, and it looks at all these different theories of what myths are and where they came from, and applies this theory consistently and unwaveringly to the myth of Adonis, and says, well, this is so-and-so's theory, let's apply it to Adonis and see if it works. Oh, it doesn't work. This is so-and-so's theory, let's apply it to it. Is that what I wanted when I picked this book up? African History is similar in its approach. I mean, I understand, like, Africa's a huge place and I'm not going to get all of its history in this tiny book, but I was expecting a little bit of an introduction to the main events in certain countries and kind of manoeuvrings of peoples, you know, kind of an introduction so that if I wanted to learn more, I could then research certain things. But what this has done is really look at the brief African history and just written a book which is like, what is Africa? And what is history? So it's kind of one of the books that I actually unwaveringly hated this year, and there was no redeeming features at all, was Future Sex by Emily Witt, which I read a few months ago. This is a non-fiction book about Emily Witt, who was single and she was in her 30s, and she thought, hey, well, what is a modern approach to free love, and you know, what should I be doing if I'm not doing the marriage and babies thing? And she kind of tries to do different stuff, and it's all awful. I don't have a copy of the book to read aloud to you as I did in my review, which you can watch here if you'd like to hear how terrible the writing is. But she just writes really badly, and what you end up with is just this very kind of nasty voyeuristic look at different people, and it felt like I was watching some kind of trashy, you know, the weirdest things people do in bed, like on Channel 4 or something, or Channel 5 even, and it just really thoroughly irritated me that someone was paid to write something so bad. A couple of actually decent books that I just didn't happen to like, which was The Many by Will Menyeur and Hot Milk by Deborah Levy. These were both longlisted for the Man Booker Prize this year, and I was very disappointed in both of them. The people like The Many, so this might just be an isolated opinion, but I felt like The Many in particular was trying to do a lot of stuff which it never kind of managed to pull off. Both of them felt very overwrought, very concerned with the intricacies of their writing, and in doing that missed the bigger picture and they were trying to imply too much. I feel like The Many felt like a very bad David Lynch film, and Hot Milk felt like a very bad Almodovar film. Like it was like they were both trying to be a little bit interesting, a little bit offbeat, but there was nothing there, and they both came out very flat for me when I read it. That is completely my opinion. Both of them were written very well, so it's not that they were bad books. I think it's just the way I interacted with them was quite disappointing. Maya's Notebook by Isabel Allende. I was really looking forward to reading some of her work. I've heard that House of Spirits is good, but Maya's Notebook is not good. It's about this girl called Maya who gets into trouble. She like runs away and goes to Vegas and gets caught up with like gangsters and drugs and I don't know, all kinds of stuff, and then she gets sent to Chiloé, which is a island just off the coast of southern Chile, to kind of hide away from the cops or something. And all of the bits of her in Chiloé I thought were really interesting. I liked learning about different culture. I liked the bits about sort of Chile's past and the civil wars, but they kept doing flashbacks to when she was in Vegas, and it just felt like someone writing about gangsters who just did not know anything about gangsters. It was like me. If I'd just gone, oh yeah, she was taking drugs. Like, it just felt like no one knew what they were doing, and it just felt very trashy and silly, and there was no need for it because that wasn't interesting to me. So yeah. Another couple of books which were not bad, but I was disappointed, and the reason I was disappointed was because I don't think the translation really did them justice, and that was Willful, Disregard by Lena Anderson and A Whole Life by Robert Seetolther. Both of these, again, I think when you have a book where there's not very much plot, it's very much about just one person's life. Like in A Whole Life, it's just a man who's living in Austria or German hills, and that is just his life. And Willful Disregard is about a woman who falls in love with an artist, and it all goes a little bit wrong, but it's very much about her internal life. So when you have books that are about the language and about thoughts, and that's their main thing that they're doing, then if it's not translated well, then you lose the main part of the book. And it's very interesting reading, it was interesting reading both of these books and thinking, I can see that they're good. It's just that they're not very good in English, and that's a shame. And it's a shame because I feel like these books were loved in their own countries, and you know there was just no need. There was no need for them to be on this list. But they are. And finally, another one of my big hates of the year, which was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. Now, I have nothing against this genre of writing or against romantic stories in general. I do have an issue with books just being written very badly. I'm really sorry if you like Me Before You. I know lots of people love it, but if you do love it, like, I feel like you might need to revisit that and have a think, because it's just so bad. I don't understand why anybody likes it. I didn't even have an issue really with the sort of euthanasia plotline that they had, although I do think that that's a very sensitive, wide topic, and if you're going to take on a topic like that, you need to be quite broad in the viewpoints that you portray, and I don't think Jojo Moyes really did that. I thought it was okay, but I thought it was handled a little bit sloppily. But my main issue is that just all of the characters were just so two-dimensional and stereotyped and caricatured. I mean, the main girl was so #quirky, all of her family were like poor or something, which meant they were really embarrassing for some reason, and her boyfriend was like, yeah, I'm really into fitness. A posh man, Will, whatever his name is, like his family were just so rich, but also because they were rich and posh, they were also very cold, and the woman was like having an affair, because obviously that's what rich posh people do. I just thought, it's just so lazy, and there was just no chemistry between them. So I didn't like that book. So sorry, not sorry if you liked any of these books. I'm very willing to discuss them with anybody if you think I'm wrong, because that's the wonderful thing about literature, is that we all have different opinions and we get different things from different books. So I would also like to know what books you hated this year. Let's just get rid of 2016 and say, this is what we hated about you. Like, get out of our lives. It's a new year now. And I will see you in my next video, which I promise will not be as negative. Bye.